Transition into another engaging discussion presented by EIT Urban Mobility, where Liisa as well share her expertise. Panel discussion is titled Urban Mobility, Innovations in Public Transport and Shared Mobility in Cities. Moderating by Bengtsson, the head of Innovation Hub North at EIT Urban Mobility. Let's welcome him here on stage. Joining Anders on the panel discussion is distinguished experts, Jonas, Damidavičius, head of Sustainable Mobility at JUDU, Agnė Vaiciukevičiūtė, Deputy Minister of Transport and Communications of the Republic of Lithuania, and Mikael Nyberg, high-level representative for Transport and Communications Policy at the Ministry of Transport and Communications, Finland. The stage is yours.
Thank you for that introduction. Thanks a lot. I'm really pleased to be here. I can say that, we are here for the second year now, the EIT Urban Mobility. If you want to know more about what we are actually doing, well, maybe some of you heard the presentation from our CEO, Maria, this morning, and also Vibke, my colleagues within the innovation team, has been presenting a panel, hosting a panel here as well today. But we also have a booth out there, so if you want to speak with us, please do. But first of all, it's I need to. Yesterday, Torsten Klimp with the Commission said that how can we be innovative and be leading in innovation globally? But I think, of course, that's a great ambition from an EU perspective, but then we also need to be innovative on a more local level and even city-wise. So I'd like to start to ask you, Agnė, you as both regional and national politician, I guess demands are quite high on you in proceeding and giving good conditions and prerequisites in terms of innovation and sustainable urban development. So maybe a bit provocative, but how are you and your colleagues actually performing? And also, how do you work on providing an innovation-friendly environment and the mindset?
So thank you very much for the question. I'm very pleased to be here in this panel. I do believe that your question is not provocative, it's the right question. And I do believe that in Europe, in different transport ministries in European Union, we have this huge shift right now, where the transport ministries are distinguishing urban mobility planning problems, challenges, possibilities as a policy which they need to lead and innovate themselves. So I'm very happy and pleased that with the minister leadership for the last 4 years, we created this ecosystem, and this forum is one huge part of it as well, to bring all the community from within Lithuania together with our international colleagues, partners, to discuss about the future and how we can collaborate more on making the best decisions for our urban mobility planning and innovations. And we not only created the whole department responsible for these kind of issues and possibilities, but at the same time, obviously, we're responsible on creating investment environment as well for that. And I'm very happy that I think 3 years ago, I was making a speech about sandbox in the transport sector, about the idea of sandbox, and now we already implementing more than 10 projects for 25 million focusing on that. And I see that the demand for these kind of projects are huge, because if you would just compare how many projects we got, it's more than for 120 million. So there are a lot of potential and pressure from the businesses work together with municipalities and try to figure out how to solve the issues, different kind of issues in urban mobility planning.
You refer to working together and collaboration, but of course, it's not just a political thing. It's we are trying to address a very, how should I say, wicked problem in a very complex system. So there are many stakeholders, but very briefly, do you find that it's coordinated? Do we have a holistic view, or how are you?
I feel that we are in the verge when the opinion is changing. And I believe that the transport and logistics sectors are the ones who needs to prove that this area as well needs to innovate as fast as possible, because obviously on innovation side, in Lithuania, we compete with different areas where Lithuania is also very, very good. So because we do have limited resources, we cannot focus everywhere.
No. Yep.
So, but what we're trying to do from transport perspective is to show that the potential is here, and there are ideas, there are businesses willing to innovate here in Lithuania, that we would go under the scope of holistic innovation portfolio in Lithuania.
Brilliant. Thank you. Mikael, you're also representing a ministry. Can I ask you, I mean, first of all, the Transport Innovation Forum here is indeed, I mean, sponsored and supported by the Lithuanian Ministry of Transport and Communication. But on an overall, what can governments do in collaboration with cities to accelerate innovation and, I mean, new solutions? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you. Coming from government, we like to take the transport system level approach, which means that we have the infrastructure, data, and service. And on the infrastructure side, we make agreements with cities and regions. We have 7 big cities, and we agree on transport, land use, and housing. And nowadays also about resilience and cybersecurity, because that's imminent and very important topic. So that is to secure the investments needed for cities to be livable. So for the micromobility and cycling and walking, rail infrastructure is very important, trams and light rails. On the modernizing mobility, that is slightly more difficult task. And we have a goal, of course, I think we all share it, that we need a multimodal passenger transport services and innovative mobility partnerships. But we seem to lack the regulatory environment to support the new services, automation and innovations. And we need the data, and it must be available, of good quality, interoperable, so that we can have better services for citizens.
Regulations and data, we will come back to that. I just want to ask you also, Jonas, in terms of representing the public transport here in Vilnius, not least, I mean, of course, you strive for sustainable solutions, but how do you find that both national and city government's role, what is it in terms of achieving these sustainable solutions? What, do you have any own experiences that you...
Yeah, I would like to add what Mikael said about cooperation between national and local governments. Despite the fact that Minister of Transport made huge help for cities to push, create sustainable urban mobility plans and encourage changing travel behavior in cities. But I think there is still a gap between common sense of sustainable mobility approach in general policy. And let's try to, I'll try to explain what I mean. For example, in Vilnius, we have a huge support from local government about sustainable mobility, build cycling network, improve public transport services, do anything what can help change travel behavior. But still, annual model split survey shows that car usage is like a constant, never changed during the past 6 years.
Oh.
So what's the reason of it? Maybe it could be more ambitious and more greater impact measures which we can implement in cities. But I think the success of sustainable mobility is in complex measures implemented in national and local level. So last few years we can't agree and adopt, for example, pollution taxes for cars, which will have significant help for local alternatives of moving. Because in my opinion, we now live in golden ages, a better life. We can afford a lot. We have 2 or 3 cars in the families. We do not calculate the cost for maintenance, for usage. So it's really a hard challenge for a while for sustainable mobility to implement alone in cities. So this complex approach could help.
Polluter pays principle. Yeah, interesting. Liisa, I need to round off this question about the governmental support, but I also would like to ask you, I mean, as a true hands-on innovator, I find you. But, I mean, do you find that we actually have an innovation-friendly, I mean, environment in terms of what we're trying to achieve?
Yes, I would say that. I think very much so. I think the struggle we always have is that we end up doing pilots because that feels comfortable, and then we have no plan to do anything after that. Like, should this be scalable? Should it get commercialized? And I think from our perspective, that's something we've worked a lot on. Like, if we invest in something, we need to then, of course, we can shut it down if it doesn't make sense, but we need to have a plan to implement it, because we're very good at introducing a pilot to our customers. Like, we'll take away your car now and you can get the cargo bike, and then 2 years after or 1 year, oh, sorry, now the service is done. We take it away. And then people have actually started to rely on the pilot. They started to change some of their habits, and then tell, no, sorry, there's no more funding, so this type of service is now removed from you. So yes, I think that we are very good at coordinating pilots, but we have no plan for the next step.
Yep.
And I also think for the commercial players, it's a huge investment to ask them to come and play with us for 2 years and then say, well, we don't know what we'll get out of it, so we can't commit to anything after that. So that also is some sort of responsibility for us who actually are a responsible procurement authority. We need to think about the next step and also build commercial and sustainable financial businesses.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Agnė, I think you want to comment?
I just wanted to add 2 points from the government side. One very short story. Usually I participate in a lot of panels. And just recently I had an opportunity to talk with one of the companies who had an experience in Lithuania and in Germany. And they said that in Lithuania, to get a license for autonomous solution to try in municipality, it took them 3 months. In Germany, usually, not only in Germany, but in general, they're saying in different countries, for them it takes for 2 years. So my answer from the government side that, for example, in Lithuania for autonomous cars, all the laws are in place from 2018. But where is the problem? I do not see a lot of businesses as well willing to scale up and go out of the pilots within the cities as well. So when I talked about Sandbox, which we established last year and give 24 million investments, we especially focus not on the pilots, but on the very high TRL technologies. We required for businesses to cooperate with our educational system together with municipalities and to create or enhance products that will be used within the cities. I think that was our main challenge and an opportunity, and in a couple of years we will be able within the same forum to discuss if it was successful or not.
Okay, so since 2018 there are possibilities, but maybe not pursued in the way they could be. But Liisa, I think you have
I just want to comment, because we've had the same regulation, right? And we're very fragmented in Europe, which can be quite of a concern if you're going to invest in Europe. And I think our perspective in Europe is, but it's open, we can get things done, we want the same things. But if you are a commercial global player, you need stability. You need to know that there is something I'm investing in so that it can actually scale, so that all of the people that I employ now don't have to go out. We've seen that from the micromobility industry. Short contracts, gig economy, everything. And the same goes a little bit in the same trajectory for the autonomy space. We have trials, policies that are very open and flexible and quite convenient to get that approved, as long as you can approve what the road authority says. But there's no stability for the next phase. And to be honest, we don't have the most sophisticated digital drivers available in Europe, and there's a reason for it. So maybe we need to start to rethink, because we tried this now since 2018. Sorry, a little bit of
no, that's good, really good. You mentioned data. How important is that?
Well, it's necessity to have it flowing and
Flowing.
yes. And the other day I was reading the mission statements for the commissioner designates, and the only thing I saw was the single booking and ticketing initiative, and that is mainly for cross-border railway transportation, of course. So we are lacking elements in the regulatory environment that are focusing regional and urban transportation. And this leads to the fact that each nation will do its best. And in Finland, we are making our own data space operational 2016, and also model regulatory framework for autonomous traffic, because the work in UNECE, the regulatory work, is lagging behind. And in US, like Liisa showed us, on the West Coast, they are going very fast with the autonomous vehicles. 100,000 journeys per week in San Francisco, LA, and Phoenix. I think those were the three cities.
Can I add that?
Yes, please.
If possible, because I had an opportunity to talk with CEO of Waymo myself. And what they were telling us, I mean, I was congratulating them in San Francisco, in the area, how fast they are moving, but then they said that within different states, it's the same problem as you mentioned. Their rulings are very different, and they just had to adapt to too many regulations, and that's a huge issue for them as well. So it's not even within the United States so easy to push through innovative solutions. And the other thing which I would like to add up about data, I think I want to share with you that once again, last year I was making presentation about the platform for urban mobility data platform that we are creating, called Data Lake, together with our national data agency. And today we are already working and piloting with a couple of municipalities how to gather all the data sets. And now we started with the public transport. And I hope that in the near future, we will take data not only from municipalities, but from all the agencies, transport, and all the other agencies. And we'll have one place for all the data to better understand what we can do more and how we can capture the progress.
You're saying you hope. I know that you have, you have an active engagement in information and communication technologies, not least from a female perspective with the girls in ICT. But is there a, how should I say, a common understanding of how important data is? And are we supporting this? Is it getting the support that is needed?
I will say that understanding that data is important, everybody has this understanding. But when you ask, so let's move on with, kind of doing something within the platform, then the challenges are coming, because we don't exactly know for sure what kind of data we need. And we don't know even if we collected this kind of data. So this is a huge change, and we are piloting within our urban mobility platform. because we understand that Europe is moving towards all the data gathering, and we are trying to be a bit, in front to see how we will work with a shorter segment as, data for how we move. And if it will be successful, I'm sure that it will be used within, broader perspective of all transport modes, and all the data is necessary. But once again, I feel that the challenge there is not the data itself. I think that the challenge with municipalities is that they are very different, and the capacity to capture the data is very, very different. And then from the business perspective, they also have to know what kind of data they need, because when we collect all the data, it doesn't make sense. You have to know what you need, and you have to start from something which will be insightful and will be able, to use it properly.
But before, Jonas, I know you want to comment on this, but you say we collect too many data, maybe, but at the same time, do we also miss out on some data that we really need? An open question, how do we secure the assessment or the gathering, but also the use of the, how should I say, relevant data?
So,
open question.
As I mentioned, because we are a bit in front of the whole Europe process, we hope that European Union on countries will help us a bit, because we did not have a systematic way of understanding what kind of data we need to collect. So I think that it will be in the future, and for us it is a huge, it's difficult for us. But what we've done with our 15 strategic companies in Lithuania, which is under our portfolio, we opened their data to our platform, but the problem and issue was the same. They said, what kind of data we have to open? And we said, we don't know, it depends on the businesses, on their solutions. And they just mentioned that, this is two-way street. That's what I wanted to say. Because we have to understand better what quality data we need to collect, and how to collect it. Because the challenges and changes are huge. And actually, I was talking with your colleague from MATE Urban Mobility just 1 hour ago, and we distinguished that the telecommunications sector is a huge source of data, and this is the way to talk and to move forward from there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Jonas.
a quick note about this data lake. We also was like partners, or we could try, we had a chance to try a demo version of this, and it's super interesting tool for cities, because as Agnė said, we have a lot of data, but sometimes we don't know how to use it, and when we put in one tool, so you can collaborate with others who have this data and make some products or make a decision. So short note that I think it would be a great tool for the next decisions.
Cool. We mentioned before regulations, policies. We were touching upon that. Something that maybe sometimes comes from a very high political level, EU or similar, but then we have to put it in place more locally as well. And this is about bridging the practical implementation with, legislation, something that EIT definitely would try to be happy to support. But in terms of influencing these regulations also, I'd like to ask you, Liisa, because you've been, of course, you mentioned as well, you have been confronting these regulations and the policies that are in place, but have you also been able to, how should I say, influence the future regulations, policies, and if there are some good examples?
Yes. So when we started out our trials in 2018, our road authority was, of course, part of those trials, because they also needed to develop policies and understand what this actually was, how that's going to impact them as well. So in some sense, of course, we're able to influence a little bit, but we can't really influence on the service level, or that we would like it to be shared fleets of autonomous vehicles and not privately owned fleets, even though we keep saying that all the time. we can only influence from the perspective of what we see as beneficial and also how we see it functioning operational-wise, like the level of complexity, how much applications should we have, should it be for 1 year, should you review the application? That's still kind of an ongoing process, but that's also why we're talking across Europe and kind of learning across Europe how different regions are doing it and also national policymakers. But it is very difficult sometimes because it can be on a national level and then you have local requirements and so on. So I think we're not done yet with it, but I think if we start to collaborate, maybe we can learn from each other and also create policies that are scalable.
Can I ask from Mikael and Agnė, I mean, from a ministry side, it's, I mean, how can you influence policies and regulations onwards in terms of getting something that is, how should I say, more innovation-friendly, allowing, or?
If I may, as we need growth in Europe and innovations, so I think we need European level approach. So I think what we are doing is pushing the Commission to take a more in-depth look at the regulations regarding the passenger transport and new services, so that we get the innovations, we get new services, we get growth also.
But is that also taking in regard what could be, I mean, local or regional circumstances? So,
no, one other thing is what Liisa kind of took it up was the new role of the transit authorities, new kind of partnerships in cities and regions. So till now it's been rather rigid. The transport authorities, they procure rail and bus services, but now there are other possibilities also with the new kind of services and also on-demand services like what Liisa was referring to.
You wanted to comment or? No. Okay, good. But besides laws, policies, legislation, regulations, we also might have some old established norms and structures that are sometimes holding back innovation. But to increase the number of travels with public transport, how can we think new? How can we make it more attractive and not least accessible? I'm asking because in one of our projects within the EIT Urban Mobility, it's called Women in ITS. We have concluded that a more female perspective would support solutions that are accessible, not only for women, but also could be elderly or people with disabilities or, I mean, some kind of limited mobility. But how can we make public transport more accessible and thereby also more attractive?
Well, even if we are responsible in Lithuania for that green transformation and we invest a lot into public transport, we can honestly say that if the bus is electric instead of run by gas, it doesn't make any difference for the person to use it more, or at least the majority is not deciding to go by public transport just because it's electric. We know that. Why they are choosing to use public transport are maybe three main reasons. It's clean, it's warm, it's right where you need it, it's fast. That is why we're choosing it. I see a lot of progress in Vilnius, they're trying to do it, but I would say that the main point is the soft measures and implications, how we can encourage people to use it, but the comfortable, fast, easily accessible public transport is the most important. On the other hand, we cannot encourage only people by soft measures to do so. And in Lithuania from 2025, 10 biggest cities has to create low emission zones. So there should be pressure from the regulatory point of view as well to help municipalities to move faster towards it. And I would like to congratulate Kaunas, our second city, because it's never easy to speak about some requirements in the city center, especially in Lithuania, when the majority are car owners. Yet, even if we do have huge popularity of shared mobility, and we were champions together with other Baltic countries in Europe in this area, if we took per share how many people uses shared mobility solutions. But anyways, it's not very popular solutions. And Kaunas was the first who implemented it. And I hope that Vilnius will follow and all the cities, because it's a law. And I think it also creates a right pressure for all of us. And just don't be confused. We are moving toward green mobility not because we want to be green. There are two main reasons. One reason, we would love to live in healthy cities and to raise our kids in healthy cities. And the other reason, we don't need to look very far away. Florida, what's happening right now, hurricanes and all the issues related with the climate change. So we have an urgency, and therefore we need political will to be brave and do the right decisions.
You mentioned the sense of urgency. Is it really there? I need to ask, because sometimes I do not really feel it is. But it's, but also going back to, how should I say, you mentioned the travelers, the citizens. How do can we involve the citizens in a much more better way in terms of, I mean, getting their engagement to understand what we are actually trying to achieve, and even getting their support? How, I mean, Jonas, I think you've been working on some projects.
Yeah, citizens' involvement in planning or decision-making is really important. It's also a key for successful, sustainable urban mobility. And I think one of the greatest examples is then national guidelines of SUMP preparation was adopted. It was like a conditional compulsion to engage different stakeholders in the preparation of SUMP, cyclists, pedestrians, elders, businessmen, and etc. So it wasn't very common to do in the projects, but during sustainable urban mobility concept, we asking people, what is your proposals, what is your expectations, and we put everything in this document, and then we going to practice and implementing it what citizens need in cities. And if we want to create accessible public transport, accessible sustainability, so we have to know how we want to travel, and discussion and talking, it's one of the way.
But in terms of also engaging the citizens and of course, providing solutions that are good for them. Do we have enough knowledge about what they really want? We can, of course, see the data. I mean, but the wants, the really wants.
What they really want?
Yeah. How do we access what the traveler really wants? We can see how they are traveling today. We can do some modeling, but for example, I was mentioning a female perspective. That is, of course, something that is not just seen in the data. It's, I mean, that would be, I don't know, interviewing people or whatever to get an understanding of that as well. How close are we to understanding our travelers?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of surveys, for example, to very detailed questions about their habits, what they need and what their struggles in the city are, infrastructure, I know, traffic organization, accessibility, etc. So it's one of the way how we analyzing what people and how people are moving in the city. So.
Any other? Yeah.
Can I just add? It's a very good question. I feel that. Sometimes people, including myself, we feel that we know what we want, but it's not always the case. So sometimes it's very interesting to rely on the data. And that is why I mentioned telco sector, because there is a lot of demand from the municipalities just to better understand the habits by the reality, how they move, where they go, what they use. And I think it will not always correlate with what they are saying. But just to give an example how we can engage more within the society, we have European Mobility Week. So we engaging then the society, not only a general public sector, but also from the kindergartens. And I just recently came back from the conference with all directors of schools in Lithuania. And I think this is one of the best ways to explain sustainability through habits from the smallest to the youngsters and teenagers. And even if it's nothing new, but everything starts from your attitude towards sustainability, at least of giving an opportunity to see different choices. So I do believe that there is a lot of ways how we can influence, and we do have a lot of good examples from different municipalities, and they are engaging. I feel a huge shift. One of the shifts which I saw maybe last year, I saw the first traffic jam of cyclists in Vilnius. That's something which I was very surprised myself.
In terms of citizen engagement, I mean, what's happening in Helsinki? What's happening in Oslo? Are there any good, examples of how you have been engaging with the citizens that have also provided something in terms of supporting the innovation? And
well, I think customer engagement, it's kind of in our DNA. Also, for being a public company, we need to be transparent, we need to share information, and are constantly customer obsessed in anything that we're doing. And of course, we have our public service obligations, so there are some strict requirements on what we need to deliver on. But so I think that's very implemented in our DNA, but it's very interesting that was kind of for the AV introduction. Everyone was thinking that the customers wouldn't like it. It would be very scary. Do you know what? We've spent too much time investigating ourselves. The surroundings were like, yeah, this makes sense. I'll hop on and hop off. It's us that really need to rethink how we deliver our services for the future, how we can choose different procurement models, how can we actually develop something or increase our portfolio of service in the future. Because basically today we are providing a service to our customers where they need to go to a place they are not, and we're dropping them off at a place they aren't supposed to be. So we need to be much more aligned with the need to go door to door when you have to, and when you can use mass transit, you should.
Helsinki?
No, we need to find right incentives and, of course, the regulatory framework. It's, passenger transport, it's heavily subsidized. And yesterday, when we heard many presentations here on freight transport, how easy it is to, for companies to change business models and do this and that. But with passenger transport, we seem to be in our silos, and it's very difficult to make a systemic change. And that's what we are, trying to think how to do it.
How to do it.
More business-oriented approach, and of course better service.
I think that we could spend maybe 45 minutes only on that. Innovative business models, but it's because I think maybe that is very much something that needs to be changed as well. As you said, there needs to be a possibility for that. But I'll get back to the hardware instead and ask to increase public transport, we need more space, right? So how do we reclaim the streets from the half-empty private cars that are running out there? Open question.
Shared autonomous services integrated to public transport.
But you need space to move them in there. How do we move out the private cars?
Yeah, and that is something we are debating a lot, because in the introduction we will introduce more cars to our roads, right? So it needs to be kind of a collaborative approach. And again, we can't replace all the cars at once. It will need to be a gradual transition. So we need to work with the Ubers out there, the car sharing companies. We need to work with also our municipalities, so we can do it like gradually and sophisticated enough so that people see that they can actually, with confidence, sell their maybe car number 2 at least. But that will be a transformation. And again, doing the systemic change, there are a lot of structures that need to be in place in order for these type of services to be fully successful. So it's not a one answer.
Thank you.
It's very easy, Anders. The city council in Helsinki, they just decide and they close lanes.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. And then you have space for cycling and walking and micro-mobility.
So in Helsinki, it's the whip.
And we are trying to do the whip as well, but we can't also not reduce people's freedom of movement, right? So it has to go a little bit hand in hand, and that's why we need an alternative.
Yeah. Jonas?
Can I add, maybe in Helsinki it's easy. We tried in Vilnius, it wasn't. 2 years ago we had huge focus on reshaping our streets, taking some space and give it for cyclists, for pedestrians, and just narrow the lanes which are still in streets. We are doing this project, and we, specialists from our point of view, saying that we give you more, we're nothing taking from you, who could be better? But the residents' reaction was different. They against the cars, they want to move us onto the bikes, and the reaction was surprisingly for us that we didn't expect a reaction like this, because we thought that what we are doing, it's good, and this is what the lesson learned, that in this case, we want a huge breakthrough to go on this topic to reshape the streets, but later we just came and just tried to communicate about the benefits, about expectations, what we have, but not what citizens have, and that was a fundamental mistake at that time. So, project good, but with bad communication, sometimes it's nothing happening.
Thank you, Jonas. We are very fast now running out of time. So I just want to, I mean, you can have 10 seconds each to answer this. But we are representing 4 countries here, I mean, today, at the stage, at least. But how can we collaborate even more effective and to speed up the change? We share the objectives, but how do we get there together? 10 seconds.
We just need to come together and discuss and debate. I see that's the only way.
Agnė?
I have this question all the time, so I even have a prepared answer. So my answer for, I don't know, Lithuanian audience who are living in Lithuania would be like this. In 2020, we did not, even hear or just started to hear about, green transition, about split modes, about policies towards cycling, and so on and so on. So everything was just at the very beginning, and the mental shift is already there. So now we have policies in place, we have investments in place. I feel that the changes are happening every day, and I just want to kind of balance expectations. It's not going to be achieved in one day, in 1 year, but we are moving strategically to the right direction. So my wish would be to continue on doing that. I don't like the discussions where we always saying how we're lacking something and so on, because there is a lot of things that are going on right now within the Europe, and we really need to appreciate and keep on doing the same thing, and everything will be okay.
That was great. 10 politicians second. Jonas, briefly.
Quick note, be an example of changes and influence over change, so I think it could
Yeah, I echo the collaboration, but I think we need to be aligned and we need a common alignment framework to do it, because otherwise we would just end up doing crisscross all over and don't have the eye on the ball. So a clear aligned framework to collaborate around.
We have the same objectives, so let's align. Thank you a lot for being on the panel here today. I enjoy listening to you, and thank you, audience, as well, for being here today, listening in to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.